And then one day, and never again will the tap work. What are you going to do? Meow. Opal's cat. Becky, the English Bull Terrier. Prepper complacency. It's a thing. I have it. I suspect everybody who is prepping has complacency. Uncle Al, Died Bullfrog 79, did a couple of videos on this, and it got me thinking, what aspects of complacency do I have, and what have I done about it, and what could I do about it? And I think for me I wanted to start with water. Why not? For most of us, water comes out of a tap. Reasonably very cheap when you consider how much we use. We take this stuff so much for granted in parts of the world that we actually use drinking water to flush poop down the toilet. Without even thinking about it. We use drinking water to water the garden, wash the car. Don't think about it. But in any sort of major grid down, that's Mr. Bear, there won't be any water available from the taps. A lot of people have fridge water. This filter's really expensive from them. I only actually use this water mostly for the dogs because I'm not keen on getting the chlorine. So what would you do if SHTF happened and you were thirsty? I think any prepper out there has plans, but the complacency part comes in, as I will now explain. And then one day, and never again will the tap work. What are you going to do? I was prepping for a few years and they cut my water main. I didn't even have any water in the kettle. Yeah, I had a few sachets of lifeboat water, I had a few aqua tabs, and I had a soya system which was still in the packaging, like most of our soya systems are. They dropped me off a case of water as a hardship case, actually 2 cases I believe, and that saved the issue for me. But it got me to thinking at the time, complacency had led me to believe that in a major grid down, water was no problem. I was able to filter it, I had blah blah blah. And I was complacent until suddenly faced with its absence. And that made me realise just how complacent I was. Now right now you're thinking, well, this is prepper weaknesses. But no, it isn't. A prepper weakness is an area you know or suspect that you're unskilled in or underprepared in. What prepper complacency is far more deadly. Prepper complacency is believing you have an area covered, and covered well, to the point where you start thinking about it and start preparing in that area. But in actuality, you're completely unprepared. And using water, I'm going to show that most of you guys out there and girls out there are actually complacent. I know I was. So we all have kits, right? Hope we do. If you have a good supply of water near you, you should know where the water is, you should know how to access it safely, etc, etc. You figured all that out. And you buy soya. Good for 100,000 litres or gallons or whatever. A huge amount of water it is good for. You might have 1 soya, you might have 2 soyas. It's not enough. The filters can break, especially when frozen. The filters take forever to process water. Now there are ways around this. I did do a video on why I think this sucks, and I stick by that actually, even though people did give me workarounds. It's far too fiddly and far too likely to contaminate. The other thing I do recommend highly is aqua tabs for the short-term use, for bug out and for short-term use. Simple, quick, reliable. No fuss, no mess. And I bought really large aqua tabs so I can process buckets of water, 30 of them. But eventually, all filters and all tabs will be used up in a long enough SHTF. I have an emergency one here with a different type of water tablet in it, and I have a little life straw type machine, a little tiny one. We all have these stuff, most of us do. It's not enough, you're complacent. What I did after the incident I had was I thought more seriously about water. It's fine being able to have sources of water around the area. It's fine being able to, in their head, grab a Sawyer system and filter them. The actuality of an SHTF could mean that the water is contaminated by various things, not just radiation. It could also be very unsafe to go and get it for weeks to months after the event. So I would need to be able to have enough potable water, which means drinkable water, in the home right now to save myself. And so I kind of thought about it. There is, I'm not going to show you them all, but I have probably 4 cases of water around the place. I don't like plastic water bottles, but I store it. It's a good standby. One of the things I did, I'm going to do more of these, I'll show you now. This is a Reliance product. They did not send it me for free, and I don't in any way recommend it. This is great. This is a 6 US gallon, 23 litre container. And I fill it full of tap water, because our tap water's got chlorine in it. And about every 6 months, I take this and I put it on the garden and refill it. So this is 23 litres of water. This is enough water for me for about 10 days. The other issue, complacency. I think 23 litres of water, 6 gallons US, is enough for me for 10 days. The reason being I'm drinking 2 litres of water a day, and I think that's fine. But I need it for cooking, I need it for cleaning, I need it for a few other things, so I might want actually more water. Now, one of the things that I would do very early on in Grit Down is go to grey water, collect rainwater, and use that for drinking after I've treated it, but use it for washing and laundry and toiletry and sanitation without treating it further than actually just catching it and storing it. So you can expand your use of water in Grit Down if you're not complacent. We're complacent, all our water's potable. For most of us, homesteaders no, but for most of us our water's all potable, so we don't think about treating it. We don't think about the time and the effort that it would take. And as I said, I'm really unhappy with the Sawyer system. I know people like it. So what did I do about that? I got me one of these. This is the Life Straw, which I don't recommend, but I do recommend this, pending using it, which I will be doing. This is a Life Straw Mission. This will purify 18,000 litres of water, which it's telling me is 4,755 gallons of water, down to 0.02 microns, which is around about the minimum, the maximum width you want in a mechanical filter. And I will just tell you about it now and show you some pictures. It removes almost all bacteria. That's essential. It removes almost all protozoa. That is absolutely essential where I live. It also removes almost all viruses, which I believe is essential, though people argue about that. Just as it is without treating the water, it will actually remove a lot of the filtrate from the water. However, for longer term use, I would definitely pre-filter the water. It weighs 0.96 pounds, less than half a kilogram. Dry weight. The ultrafiltration is a mechanical hollow fibre membrane, so as long as you haven't had water in it and it freezes, it's good to go for quite some time. This does not require running water or a piped-in water supply, which is essential. The cleaning of the filter and the cartridge is easy. So what does that mean? Well, if you look at the system, you will see how it works. What I really liked about this system is the fact that I have 2 taps in the filter. One is a clean water supply and one is the flush dirty supply. And that's in red and that's in blue. So there's no confusion. I haven't got one point of entry. That's the thing with life straws people aren't really gathering and thinking about, is that when you actually first use a Sawyer or you first use a life straw, the normal straight systems or that Frontier one I showed you, the first part of the water is quite likely to be contaminated from water running around the side of the filter if nothing else. This avoids that completely. I really like this. The other thing about this is that for every one you buy, and it wasn't cheap, I'm being non-complacent with water, it will not be cheap. Apparently, I'm giving some African child who's at school fresh drinking water for a year just by buying this product. Bit of a bonus. So yeah, I'll be taking this out of the packet and I'm going to go down to not my nearest water supply, but my nearest clean water supply, and I'll take it from that. Because as I've said before in videos, relying on a storm drain in the first couple of years of SHF for your drinking water is a really bad idea. Storm drains have gasoline, organics in them, pesticides in them, heavy metals in them. There might be life all over that storm drain pond. I would not recommend drinking it unless you had no other choice. But I still think I'm complacent. I really do. I don't care if you have 50 cellulars or 100 life straw fillers, which you never would buy. I still think you're complacent. And I think, and I've discussed this with a lot of preppers, and I think they're really, really complacent. You absolutely have to have a reliable, gravity, non-chemical method of treating water that removes most protozoa, most bacteria and most viruses. You really should toss in some few extra pennies and get one that will remove heavy metals like arsenic as well and pesticides. It makes sense to me to have that as a backup. So what would you need to do for me to say to you, you're not being complacent about water? Well, simply put, a Berkey system. The water's delicious. Okay, the Berkey costs a lot of money. It cost me 560 Canadian to get this system. I bought 4 black filters, 4 white filters. The black filters last for 10 years. The white filters last about a year to a year and a half. The white filters are a luxury add-on. The white filters work to remove heavy metals and some pesticides. I think it's a good bargain to get them, to be honest. I think in SHTF, wherever your local water supply is, I have 3 or 4 areas here I can get water from in this area. Where I am at the Shire, I have probably over 20 within a 5 to 20 minute walking range or bike range. So the actual supply of water up at the Shire is going to be much more easier and safe and clean and easier to access than it ever would be in a suburban area like I am now. But this is an essential piece of kit. This is utterly essential. $400 American. Your water supply is safe and guaranteed for the next 10 years in grid down. $400 is a lot of money. But if you smoke, if you drink, if you buy coffee at McDonald's, buy a bit less, start a jar, put the pennies in the jar. Get one of these sooner rather than later. Now I know Panhandle Prep and a few other people have them and use them daily. I do. My water supply here is reasonably clean. The reason we went back to the Berkey filter was because Kitty was concerned about fluoridization and chloridization. No need to get into that argument. I wanted one anyway. This is one of 2 we have. Our original one from our original farm property that we had, that we bought specifically because of the pesticide spraying, is actually boxed up and as a spare in the garage because I'll never get rid of it. Now the other thing about complacency is people build these themselves online out of 2 plastic jugs. The actual metal is dirt cheap compared to the price of the filters. And having the metal is easier to clean, much more sturdy. It's not leaching plastic material into your drinking water every single day of every single year that you're using this in grid down or using this on a normal. I cannot see for the life of me why people would skimp on their own health. SHTF would be bad enough without being complacent about where your water is coming from and what you're drinking. Alright, so I hope you like this. This will probably be a series. I'll pick a complacency issue that I have, talk about it, show you what I've got, show you what I should have if I don't have it. But in terms of water, I'm very complacent now. I'm still thinking about it. I do have 1 radiological filter that would last, I think, for 10 litres. I'm considering stocking more. They're pricey, single-use, garbage plastic. But I see a point to being able to filter water knowing there's radioactivity in it in certain circumstances for a brief period of time. So complacency is when you buy a gun and you believe you're safe, but you don't do range training on a frequent basis, and you don't try firing the gun from unconventional positions, and you have not stocked enough ammunition. Complacency is having a huge gap in the ability of what you believe in reality, when what happens in SHTF is likely to be unknown and very variable. No plan survives first contact with the enemy. No prepping plan, no prepping bug out bag will work as you wish it to work and believe it will work. Die Bullfrog 79, Uncle Al, is absolutely right. He watches an awful lot of our videos. He's a strong supporter. He sees us being complacent. He sees us being smug. He sees us making huge gap errors, not planning for all the contingencies that he's been aware of and has experienced in his life. I will do a video where I open the life straw mission. I go on a mission to get water in a simulated condition of grid down and explain why I'm doing the gathering the way I am, and then we'll set it up and we'll see how it works. But the ability to filter from one bag 10 to 12 litres of water in one go, for me, completely makes the extra size much more valuable to me when I'm hiking, when I'm camping, and in grid down. The solar system does not produce enough water fast enough and easy enough, even when you improvise gravity systems. I'm hoping the LifeStraw mission fixes that need. For when I'm mobile, I can't really carry this. Now there are smaller versions of this. I don't know how they are. I've never had one. I can see the point to having one of them as a piece of kit in a bug out bag. But for me, in a bug out bag, I'm just going to go totally 100% now with aqua tabs. Toodaloo, au revoir, peace of sane, don't be complacent.